All right, folks, this is Kenny with Just the Right Angle coming to you live on Rumble as well as Podbean. You can listen to me there. I try to give updates as best I can on all that is going on. You follow me on those pages. Also, YouTube, Keep Arkansas Legal, and this will be a broadcast on Facebook as well. Just got the Podbean activated. Now, Facebook, I have to make it go public. I don't know why it doesn't do that automatically, but that's okay. Folks, I wish I could say that things were okay, but they're not. The first thing is, of course, as I've been talking about, is the drama that's been going on within the Republican Party of Arkansas. Republican Party of Arkansas has had numerous problems. Of course, I was there last year when the establishment decided to cheat people from being able to go to the Pulaski County Convention. I'm sorry, the state convention. These are delegates from Pulaski County who were falsely accused of not properly being credentialed. Then they had a kangaroo court credentials committee, and then they had the police sicked on them, myself included, among others. So fast forward to the convention that we had on June 8th, where we voted to change rules. The Republican Party of Arkansas leadership, Joseph Wood, and most likely under the direction of the guy who put him in office, Chris Caldwell, are pretending that the rule changes don't exist and that they had a fake illegal executive meeting where they voted to null and void our rule changes, but somehow keep the electors that we chose during this state convention. Now there has been an argument on what to do regarding the electors. Apparently there is a document where the convention was supposed to be certified by the convention chair and the convention secretary, and it wasn't. Instead, it was certified by Joseph Wood and Julie Harris. It should be noted that Julie Harris has failed in her duties in regards to the delegate list. Also who has failed us has been the Republican Party of Arkansas director, Seth May. I don't know how much Julie Harris makes. Joe Wood makes $60,000 a year plus. I think he gets some kind of bonus based on how much money the Republican Party of Arkansas raises. And then Seth May, I believe, is around $90,000 a year. And if someone wants to correct me on that, they're free to do so. But what we've gotten out of that investment is being treated like garbage, lied to. Our efforts have been squandered, and now these people want us to volunteer. I tell people now, do not volunteer for the Republican Party of Arkansas. If there is a candidate that you know who is a good guy and you want to volunteer for them, help them out, feel free to do so. But do not volunteer for the Republican Party of Arkansas, because right now it is run by globalists. It is run by people who hate you, who hate this nation. The Bill Gates, Klaus, whatever that guy's name is, George Soros type individuals here in this state, many of them in Little Rock. And they're running the show now. They're running that organization, and they tell Joseph to jump and he says how high. They tell him to invite certain people into press conferences, and then they slam the door to my face in the face of South Arkansas Reckoning. So here, Conduit News has an actual timeline in writing, which has been needed before, on what is going on. June 8th was our convention. June 10th, this document was supposed to be signed. Well, it was signed, but it wasn't signed correctly. And there is an Arkansas law that states that The state can, I'll read part of it. It's AR Code 7-3-302, and it states the state convention of the party or group by its chair and secretary shall certify to the Secretary of State the total list of electors together with electors at large so chosen. The certificate shall be filed no later than September 15th in the year of the election. The filing of the certification with the Secretary of State shall be deemed and taken to be the choosing and selection of the electors of the state. If the party or group is successful at the polls as provided in this subchapter in choosing their candidates for President of the United States and Vice President of the United States. Emphasis added. The certification by the respective political parties or groups in the state of electors of President of the United States and Vice President of the United States shall be made to the Secretary of State within 2 days after the state convention. It says emphasis added. And it says, even though Arkansas law specifically requires this to be done 2 days after the convention, it also specifically requires it to be filled by the RPA convention chair and the state convention secretary. So one of the debates or issues is the fact that the convention technically did not adjourn. It didn't end. It's what known as adjourn, call to the convention of the chair, which is Jennifer Lancaster. So they could legally say, well, since the convention wasn't officially adjourned, one could legally then say that it's still going, so it doesn't matter if, so it hasn't been signed. But then there's September 15th. That's the other one. That's the deadline for when this document is supposed to be certified to the Secretary of State under Arkansas law. Well, that deadline has since passed, and this thing still hasn't been signed, the last I checked. And if somebody wants to update me and let me know, hey, Jennifer Lancaster went ahead and signed it, that's fine. Or, and there's another possibility, this isn't listed in Conduit News. Since this is an Arkansas law, the Arkansas law is written by the state legislature and signed by the governor. The governor of Arkansas is Sarah Huckabee Sanders, who's a Republican, and we have a Republican supermajority. So it is possible that the state legislature may have to be called into a special session to amend or remove this law so that this certification thing can go through. That could become a possibility. That's like I think that may be an option that we may have in regards to the law here. And folks, if you are, I'm putting this link to this Conduit News article in the chat. I'm not going to read through the whole thing. It is a long article. I'll just say that here's some of the drama that's happened. The link between July 26th and September 13th. On September 7th, to continue the president, Jennifer Lancaster now says she's holding firm, and if the RPA did not revoke their decision stating the changes made at the convention were null and void and had not adjourned, she would not certify Arkansas 6 electors with the Secretary of State. And then on August 27th, there was a lawsuit regarding the rule changes. Now, that's one lawsuit. Now, actually, well, let me take that back. I believe that's when the lawsuit regarding the rule changes were done. And this was on behalf of Jennifer Lancaster and 22 other delegates to the convention. A lot of people were left out of that and probably would have wanted to be on the lawsuit. There were, I think, not quite 600 people that attended the state convention, and the majority of them were in support of the rule changes, in part because they voted for Jennifer Lancaster to be party chair. September 13th, the convention secretary, Jennifer Hopper, met her legal obligation to the state and the RPA and filled out the survey. On September 15th, there was an update regarding the convention, and she has stated that she would not sign this. And then she filed a legal injunction regarding the signing of this certification. And now there is a call for a meeting of the executive committee for Friday, September 20th, in order to fill any ineligible vacancies in the presidential electors. So they're going to have a meeting. I'm pretty sure I'm going to have the door slammed in my face if I try to go to this meeting, because the RPA has treated us like garbage before. Matter of fact, I'll give a quick example. I'll show on Rumble an example of what I'm talking about. And they're going to, I'm not sure what all they're going to do in this meeting. And here's some more, a lot of legal stuff that I can't go through. It's just too much. And there has been some statements since then regarding what to do regarding this issue, about this issue. But it is a huge mess, and it looks like a lot of things are going to go in the courts. The closing of primaries, the ballots need to be worked on as soon as possible. Again, that is the law of the land. Under state law and even under legal precedents, the state convention decides the primaries, not the executive committee, not the worthless rules committee that tried to sabotage the state convention, but the state convention is the one that decides whether primaries are open or closed. That is the law. And the first lawsuit, the one filed on August 22nd, is supposed to force the Secretary of State and election officials to adhere to the law. RPA leadership, well, I don't care what we're not supposed to care what they say. They can hate it all they want to, but it's the actual administration of when you go to vote, the people who administer, who write the ballots, who check your voter registration, all that system, they're the ones that are supposed to adhere to the law. And so far, they're not doing it. They're just thumbing the nose at it. A lot of these are the same people that think that Trump should be in jail and shouldn't run for president because he was convicted in court. But when the law suits their agenda, no, it should be absolutely obeyed to the letter, regardless of how corrupt it is. When it doesn't suit their agenda, we'll just ignore it. That's the kind of attitude these people have. And sadly, like I said, they're running the Republican Party. They are the ones that are calling the shots. Thankful to Conduit News for this update. And again, this basic timeline of what's going on, because no one else has really given much of an actual timeline of what's happened. Or if they have, they've done a poor job of illustrating what all's going on. Why? I'm not sure. I'm going to say that it seems like, based upon the fact we haven't heard from the RNC and we haven't heard from the Trump campaign, we haven't heard from Donald Trump himself about a threat to Arkansas electors. I think it's most likely that they'll find some way to make sure that when the presidential election happens and the overwhelming majority of people vote Donald Trump, that the 6 electors will be allowed. They'll have they'll go before. Last time they were in the Arkansas Supreme Court, that's probably where they'll go again, and they'll cast their votes for Donald Trump, and there won't be any legal challenge. That's what I'm guessing is happening. But speaking of people that run things in a poor way, as you know, I've been fighting against the Little Rock sales tax. As a matter of fact, I think I have with me one of my flyers that I made that I'm passing around. Find my bag here. I have set up a Facebook page. There is another group of people that have formed an actual committee to vote against this Little Rock sales tax. I've run campaigns before, but here's my flyer. And then I do have a Facebook page as well. I'll try to look for that in a little bit. Vote against higher taxes November 5th. The city of Little Rock is trying to raise taxes in another election. Actually, I shouldn't say special election. It's going to take $650 million more dollars. They're trying to steal $650 million. Well, this story that came out today, and it's really a promo for the Little Rock tax. It's disguised as a news story. Officials of the poor in the city and the Little Rock Regional Chamber talked plans to expand resource and the impact and to have overall economic development. And this was Tuesday. It's about the port. And what they're going to do is they're going to try to expand the port. In order to expand the port, they're going to have to vote. You're going to have to vote on the tax increase. And part of the port's going to be $22 million going to economic incentives, with $8 million being dedicated to this port. Executive Director Brian Day. It creates 10,000 jobs. So supposedly $8 more million. How many more jobs it's going to create, we don't know. Who's going to be getting the money? We don't know. Are these going to be actual jobs in Little Rock? Or are they going to be overseas? Are they going to be remote, which means it can be from someone can work at home? Or is it going to, they're going to import people? How many of these jobs are going to be from people that are even within the state? We don't know. And why do I bring this up? Because here's something else that happened. This was touted as this wonderful thing. You've heard up and down about green energy and these green jobs. Here is Elam Wind Power Facility. And this was in 2020. Elam Wind Power Facility in Little Rock announced Tuesday they'll be closing this site later this year. A spokesman for GE, that's General Electric, which has received billions in federal bailouts, will wrap up by the end of April. The plant's closing due to, they claim to decrease demand for the blades. Yet we're supposed to be getting wind farms. Matter of fact, there's supposed to be some wind farm scam plans going on here. I actually did a video about that earlier. And here's what really happened. Green jobs are a scam, and they have to be constantly fed money in one way or another. This was a $150 million plant. It was set up in July 2007, opened in 2008. It had over 600 workers. It was originally touted to hire about 1,100 workers, but it didn't. It was a failure. Now, I don't know how many of this $150 million was in tax incentives. I know there was some, because I know they had a lot of tax breaks and incentives that we, the people, don't get. And part of this happened, and this happened under the Beebe administration, but it kept going and kept getting funded under Republican administration. If you've seen my videos, you've seen the other article by Conduit News. There's a lot of green organizations that donate to the Republican Party. And so even though we're a red state and we vote overwhelmingly for Trump, a lot of your money is going to be wasted on these stupid scam green companies. Your money, you're going to be, your green, again, green energy is always a scam. When it is taxpayer funded. Oh, here's an example. Actually, I have several examples. Here's one by a guy named Spencer Hawks, who was a Republican running for Arkansas Senate. He was defeated by Mark Johnson. This is a Republican. Well, it's taking a while to buff and bring up. I didn't actually. Here we go.
Accountability. And then another one that I worked on that was one of my favorites this past session was the Affordable Energy Act. And, I had that bill in my pocket to run last session. And then we had the snowmageddon. How many of you guys remember the snowmageddon? So we were there at the house, and, we were getting a text about the rolling blackouts. And I told Sochi, of course, we're both Spanish speaking, I said, if we're going to be living in a third world country without electricity, it's going to at least be warm. And, so when that hit, it made me think, well, we really, need to run this bill. What it does is it creates accountability for the Public Service Commission, and that before we start shutting down plants, that they have to come in with a statement saying that, yes, this is the best path forward for sustainable energy, and that our people can afford it, and we're not going to be having rolling blackouts. I mean, if you guys look around the country at some of these more progressive states that have converted all of their energy into renewable, which I think renewables are wonderful, but we have to do it in a way that makes sense. So A, that our people can afford it, and B, so that we don't have those rolling blackouts.
Okay, here's the thing. There's no way to do that. When you put tax money to renewables, it fails. The solar, these wind farms are an absolute failure. There's no such thing as doing that. So when the Republican tells you that, they are lying to you. That's why this guy lost his primary, one of many reasons. That, and he's a supporter of illegal immigration. That's one other issue I'm going to talk about. Here's another one. I'll play a little bit of this. This is the Arkansas Joint Energy Commission. And this is one of my many hearings in the state legislature. I don't know if this is available on the state website, but of course you'd have to hunt it down and find it. So I went ahead and this is in 2017. Here I've wasted here. You can read here. There was an ethanol station only a few miles from the Arkansas State Capitol, and then LMM Power. Years before it shut down, they got over $14 million in tax exemptions. That's where they get special deals. Instead of just giving them money to them, which people would see and go, "Wait, hey, wait, I'm not getting anything." They get an exemption that you don't get, but it's the same effect. And even here, I talked about the carbon, less than 3% of Earth's atmosphere. Remember, Frank Scott Jr. believes this garbage, and you better believe that millions of those tax dollars. There we go. Uh-oh, lost my share system. Sorry about that. You can hear me, you can't see. There we go.
Developed proposals, submitted them to the Department of Energy, and we competed against other states across the nation for dollars to implement these programs. So the first is our 2013 competitive award, which we're using primarily to develop a statewide financing initiative for customers who are interested in using dollars to perform energy efficiency upgrades on their homes. The program will be accessible to any residential type, but our hope is that it will be most useful to income and credit constrained customers throughout the state.
So again, they're going to use your tax dollars, and some of this goes to things that are useful, like repairing air-conditioned ducts, so that efficient windows, that sort of thing. But a lot of it is to solar panels and windmills, and that's the problem. And again, these green jobs never work. So when Frank Scott Jr. goes to his town hall and touts these, the Little Rock port and $8 million going to the port and economic development. Whenever you hear that word, ask him, are you going to get a refund if the company fails? Because I don't know about you, I didn't get a refund when Ellen Wind Power failed. I didn't get a refund when that, what was it? It was an ethanol station down in Little Rock, which it's right off of Chester. I think it's now a glass repair shop. But a long time ago, it was an ethanol station. And then Governor Mike Beebe pumped his own gas there. That was as part of a publicity stunt for it. And nobody wanted it because ethanol destroys your engine, and then you waste more money having to fix your engine. So I try to get as far away from asphalt as possible so you don't have to end up in a mechanic shop. Thanks, Chloe. And thanks, Susie, for the like. But that's what's going on. So, again, as I said before, just to close, do not volunteer for the Republican Party of Arkansas. Demand the Arkansas leadership accept the rule changes that were done by the state convention and make absolutely sure that if you're volunteering for someone that they don't work for one of the big rhino consultants. Ask them who their campaign manager is. Ask them if they have a consultant. If it's Caldwell Consulting or Impact Management, do not volunteer for them because you're being scammed. You're being used. And as for this mess here with this, I don't know why it keeps getting rid of my screen share. Again, I've posted this link here by Conduit News, a timeline of events since the RPA state convention. Yes, it's long, but at least it gives you a timeline. So you can go through a calendar and see, okay, this is what's going on. When you hear of a lawsuit, you know you have an idea of what it is. When you hear of an executive committee meeting, you have an idea of what it is. July 23rd, this was the meeting where they met behind closed doors and illegally voted to cancel the Republican Party of Arkansas rule changes. And one of the reasons why we need these rule changes is because of the issue. For instance, just recently, a poor woman from Little Rock who was, I believe, she worked at Arkansas Children's Hospital. I talked about this yesterday. A Honduran illegal alien who should have never been here at all crashed into her, had multiple records, was deported under the Trump administration in 2018, and then came back, had multiple traffic violations, and still was able to drive around. I don't know how many times this clown was pulled over, but then in Little Rock, crashed into some poor woman who was working at Arkansas Children's Hospital. And I made the broadcast about it yesterday. It makes me sick. But one of the reasons it's happening is the city of Little Rock is one of these what I call blue cities. And they are friendly toward illegal immigration. Here's part of the reason why. And this is the Bishop of Arkansas for Catholics, Anthony Taylor. And here he is at some May Day protest. This is a protest in support of communism, an ideal that has killed thousands of Christians. And there's Bishop Anthony Taylor, who shouldn't be there at all, or if he should be there, be protesting them. And he gives a prayer for this May Day protest. I want you to listen to this.
Padre Celestial, al celebrar hoy la fiesta de San José Obrero, recordamos lo mucho que se parece a muchos de los trabajadores en el mundo de hoy. Cuando las circunstancias le obligaron a traer a su familia a Egipto y vivir ahí refugiados, no dudó en hacer lo que era preciso para proteger a su familia y proveerles. Y agradecemos a los egipcios que les dieron refugio y la posibilidad de ganarse la vida durante su estancia allí. Cuando las circunstancias cambiaron y la oportunidad se presentó para regresar a la Tierra Santa, San José volvió a su familia a Nazaret. Allí como carpintero, presión de ayudarles a nuevas leyes las flamas resembles many hard-working people today. When circumstances forced him to take his family to Egypt and live there as refugees, he did not hesitate to do what was required to protect his family and provide for them. And we are grateful to the Egyptians who gave them refuge and a way to earn a living during their time there. When circumstances changed and the opportunity arose for them to move back to the Holy Land, St. Joseph moved his family to Nazareth because they apparently had better opportunities in Galilee, even though we know from the census that they were citizens of Judea. And we are grateful that Joseph was able to provide for his family there as a carpenter. Today we pray for all those in our time who, like Joseph, Mary, and Jesus, come to our land to escape oppression, poverty, persecution, violence, and war. We pray that those who seek to make a home in our country may find us welcoming and willing to help them find a path forward to citizenship. And we pray that our legislators will craft new immigration legislation that does justice for our country and for those who would immigrate here.
So there you go. The Bishop of Arkansas is too ignorant to know that Egypt was still part of the Roman Empire. And of course, he doesn't care about the harm caused by illegal immigration, while standing beside Rita Scar, the ACLU. If you know the ACLU, you know how anti-Christian they are, supporters of the LGBTQ agenda. There were also supporters of Sharia law and the Islamic agenda that were there. And he does speak at pro-life events, but he's often mixed his leftist politics in there. So this is the supposed religious leader for Catholics in Arkansas. And there's other examples of this guy doing this. He is not going to care about this poor woman, Jennifer Ann Morton, who was killed by an illegal. Maynor Herrera was not St. Joseph, nor did he imitate Christ at all. This was a guy that was deported in 2018 and then snuck his way back and had numerous charges. If you look at here, this is from the Department of Public Safety. Negligent homicide, battery DUI, that's on the car wreck. He also had a violation of the Concealed Weapons Act because he was a felon that wasn't supposed to have a weapon. So there's your gun laws there. Of course, the reckless driving, he did not have a license. And that you could say happened during the accident, and other traffic violations. This guy should have been in jail and then on his way back to Honduras. And unlike Bishop Taylor and some of the other cowards in the illegal immigration agenda, they never bothered to talk about, they just assume that the oppression's always there. Jesus spoke against government oppression. This nation was founded on ending government oppression. You don't just accept evil the way it is. The Republican Party was founded on ending slavery, which had been an institution for thousands of years. So it's cowardice when these illegal alien advocates, but because of these people and their influence, again, in the state legislature, self-deportation laws, the laws that would fix this problem, get stopped. Here's another one. Here's a leftist here at the Clinton Library. I'm just going to play it for you here. No, you don't deserve applause. Life begins at citizenship. Life begins at citizenship in their own countries. They need to do what we did when we were being oppressed. And when America was oppressed, there were a lot of people who emigrated with an E, left the country. There were some people that joined the oppressors. But there was around 3% of the population that said, no, we're not going to take this anymore. For years, they tried legally to have a form of freedom. And that when that didn't work, when that was rejected, they said, okay, we're going to have to take up arms. And they fought the most powerful nation in the world. They were tired of being taxed. They were tired of being oppressed. They were tired of having no representation, no say. Many of them were tired of the way they were being treated in regards to their business. Some of it was for greed or wealth, capitalism, as you call it. Some of it was because they were one of the issues, and this is mentioned in the Declaration of Independence, is there were Indian attacks. There were attacks by various Native American tribes, and they would do the same thing. They would bludgeon and kill, torture. They would often kidnap women and use them as sex slaves. They would steal livestock. And the British government that the colonies were being taxed over wasn't protecting them, just like we have today. Jennifer Ann Morton, I'm sure, paid taxes. Her family paid taxes. I pay taxes. You pay taxes to keep Maynor Herrera from being here. And there's a lot of stories like this. This happens every day around the nation. And if you look in Europe, they are deliberately allowing a third world invasion there. And it's going to happen here. So vote down the Little Rock sales tax. Vote down any tax. If you know of a tax in a town, I don't care if the population's 50. Let me know so I can let others know. As I've mentioned before, I managed the defeat of the Bryant millage tax of 2017, and they needed They claimed they needed $117 million. Well, no, I'm sorry. I believe it was $107 million. And that was defeated by 8 votes. So all my calls and knocking on doors and volunteers and conservatives from Saline County years ago, all the flyers and press conferences I did, it was defeated by 8 mere votes. So yeah, mentioning a tax increase could defeat it. Now we've ended special election tax increases, but even so, you don't want to take a chance. I don't care about polling. I'm sick of hearing about polling of any kind. I don't care if it's 90% against. If you campaign like your vote's going to be the one that makes the difference. But anyway, I've got to go meet with some folks, do some other errands. Catch me again at Just the Right Angle on Rumble and Podbean. YouTube, Keep Arkansas Legal. Also on Facebook. Y'all have a great day.